Hello and welcome to the Sports Hour. It is 12:15, so you know that we're about to have a good time. So, we're live officially and the Blue Jays game tonight live at 7:07. And so that's what we're going to talk about first today because, you know, watching that game yesterday, I put the quotes because I might have fallen asleep midway through watching the game. Um, but watching the game yesterday was really fun for the as long as I was watching it. So, first inning, Breos comes in. He's great. He's not the guy that's gonna wow you with the K's and get these unreal numbers, these gaudy numbers. But he's gonna pitch a solid ERA. He's gonna pitch solid innings, keep that pitch count down. Of course, his last inning was tough, 34 pitches, but he was great. He didn't allow any runs, and that's what we really look for here. So, it doesn't get much better than that. 5 1/3 inning pitch before the, bullpen committee came out and started doing its work, which was also very solid. Of course, I'm going to have the stats pulled up here on my phone for the game. Of course, this was a 5-1 win, if you missed it, early on in the game. In the first inning, we had a one-run single by Kirk to put us up 1-0, of course. And then it was smooth sailing from there from Breos. So smooth sailing, I was asleep because it was so calming. It was so nice. He's such a good pitcher. It's a weird compliment, and it's a bad compliment because I shouldn't be falling asleep during games. But wow, was he just so solid, and it was effortless. It was ground ball after ground ball, pop fly, easy catches, can of corns. And then the occasional strikeout. I think he finished the game with 4. So it was really good from him. Sadly, what I missed was an Ernie Clement. Ernie Clement, of course. It's another home run. That's a 3-game home run streak. I saw a tweet that was a clip of Barry Bonds hitting the world's record, the record home run. And it was Ernie Clement as of late, and I thought that was spot on. I thought that was one of my favorite tweets I've seen, just as an Ernie Clement fan club enthusiast, aficionado. I mean, big, proud member. So he hits a 3-run blast, and it was funny because on the broadcast, you hear the corners are in, which didn't matter at the end of the day. And that completely blew the game wide open. Of course, Reel, the app, has a momentum chart, and it dipped slightly up in the inning prior for the Cubs because they had a little bit of work. They got a few base hits here and there, but didn't cash any runs. And then, of course, momentum dips completely for Toronto after a huge home run. So, we absolutely love that. We take that, and really that carried us to the win. If we're being honest, that was probably the key contributor. That and then the pitching, of course. A lot of guys came out of the bullpen for the game. Of course, just looking at my phone here at the stats, we had Nance come in, who gave up the only run in the game against. Varland came in. I'm not sure if it's his first appearance, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was. And he was great. Came out to a Canadian song, 3 Days Grace. Animal Life become by 3 Days Grace, but you get the point. And according to my dad, looks pretty good. So, we'll take that. Always take that. And then, of course, Flaherty pitched again. He's great. I'm still probably saying his name wrong, which I feel awful about. And then Little and Hoffman came in, and they were perfectly fine. They got us out of the game, and it was pretty good. Special mention goes out to Ty France, 2 for 3. Hit a massive double that looked like it was going to go. Sadly did not, but just really good. Really good hitting across the board. I'm really liking this team post-trade deadline. A lot of people I saw online were giving criticisms that they didn't grab the big fish and they didn't get that huge name, which is a fair criticism. They didn't go after the Carlos Correas of the world and the other big names that got traded, especially pitchers. We stayed pretty true with the pitching staff other than Bieber, who was in the bullpen last night. I remember seeing him with the jersey on. They had special mention about him. He did not come into the game, but we will see him soon. I'm confident we'll see him soon. And speaking of pitchers that we'll see soon, this is a little side note, but Trey Savage, the Macho Man, Trey Savage, pitching tomorrow. So we're gonna, us in Blue Jay Nation, we're gonna find a way to watch that game and comment on his performance, and we might do a little Buffalo Bison, not our, but special segment for him. But anyways, back to the team. Because part of me is disappointed we didn't get that big fish. Those real World Series winning players, if those exist really. But that gives us a special feeling. That gives us that underdog feeling that this team's kind of carried all year, it feels like. Even in games against the Dodgers, we were seen as the underdog. And I think all three, according to betting, you would have to fact check me on that. Maybe there was a game in there where it was even, but this is a team that's seen as an underdog and seen as a team that can't win, which is funny enough, one of the two teams with 70 wins this season. It's us and the Brewers. Also a team looked at as a team that can't win. And they did bye, but again, it's a very similar situation with the two top teams in the respective conferences. Both not really, respective leagues, excuse me. It's baseball, not football. It's funny to see that both teams are looked at as early or NLDS exits. I saw for a lot of Brewers haters were commenting, which I find that to be pretty hilarious. But anywho, the Blue Jays. The game last night continued on. Of course, they scored a run, and that was on Nance. But really, it wasn't in doubt, not like any of the games in the Dodgers series. So that was, huge plus, huge bonus. And of course, it's the players that you want to play good that are playing good. And it's such a plus. Guys like, Barger, I'd like to see get back on that hot streak again. But Vladimir Guerrero Jr., he's been so good lately. I have to remember, I don't know if I saved it or not, but of course we'll have a little Twitter time later. And Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had showed his OPS by month, and he's been batting a 1 dot. I think it's 1.0 something. 1.000. And it's just excellent work from Vladdy so far. And he's that guy on that team, which we expected from Santander to get better as the season progressed. And sadly, injuries have been what stunted Santander so far. Speaking of which, it's going to be really interesting to see where he slots back into the lineup once he does come back from injury. Because this Blue Jays team has really felt... It's not so much a team that has that consistent 1 through 9, everybody plays that position every game, but it's a team where a guy like Nathan Lucas last night was the first batter out, and he was the leadoff guy, and he'll play anywhere in the field, or some games sit and not play at all. And guys like Addison Barger, who is normally an everyday third baseman, and he's great there, has that just rocket arm. He's a guy that will, he could play in the field. I've seen him play right field before. I've seen him play first. He shouldn't have to do that too much anymore. I'm just saying, for the point, is that this is a team that relies heavily on these platoon guys other than Bo Bichette and Jimenez. But Jimenez even moves around the diamond sometimes. He's not just a second baseman at the end of the day. But my favorite player, Ernie Clement, he plays anywhere. He's one of the most valuable defensive utility guys in the league. He looks like he can have a 4 wins above replacement season, which is unreal for a guy that we just kind of plucked out of obscurity. But that's the thing where it's not going after that big fish might help this team in the long run to stay good, to stay hot in the regular season. But in those 7-game series, when every individual game matters, and so much as so going on a hot streak matters, but isn't so much that lightning in a bottle feeling as postseason wins, which feel earned. I'm not saying that these regular season games don't feel earned, but a lot of the games in the win streak just kind of felt like, oh, they're doing it again. Wow, okay. There's no explanation for it other than it's just working. Versus in the playoffs, it's thoughtful baseball. It's games matter more, and your better players have to show up, and you have to have more of those said better players. You will see runs like the Arizona Diamondbacks, who make it to the World Series with these low key rosters and with the Tampa Bay Rays, but they don't win. The World Series winners as of late are those teams that, you know, earn it. The Rangers, they earned it that year, which they are good now, but when you look back at the stats, there's some fishy parts of that. We're not getting into that just because I'm a Jays fan and don't like the Rangers. But either way, the Astros, when they won it in the 2020s, it was an earned win. It was, as much as it pains me to say that too. And then other teams winning it, like the Dodgers, like, yeah, they have good players. And even like the Yankees making it last year. What that shows me is that the floor to making it is increasing every single year. I think it's way less likely that we're going to get these fluke teams making it, just because of the talent level of the top teams keeps getting stronger and stronger with, better and better players. And that's what scares me for the Blue Jays in the playoffs, is that are we going to be able to rely on guys like Vladdy, Bo Bichette, George Springer, who's over 35 years old? That's the fear. Are we going to hold up? I don't know, but I think no matter what seed this Blue Jays team is, they're going to be looked at as underdogs. But tonight against Chicago, I think they're seen as the favorites. I will go fact check that as we speak, because Real has the dog of the day, and yes, the Blue Jays are the favorites, which I like. We're into that. We like being seen as the better team, but I think come playoff time, we're gonna be the underdog to most teams, especially if we make the World Series. Some of the teams in the National League are just so good, so unbelievably good. Of course, the Dodgers, who we just played and lost twice to, the Phillies, who I think are unreal, but I think they lost today. Of course, the Brewers, who I mentioned before. It's a pretty stacked. The Giants, who have cooled off lately, but they're still quite good. It's gonna be tough, even if we do make the World Series. But even to get out of the American League, we gotta beat teams like the Yankees, the Red Sox, who are both teams on our heels. Teams like the Astros as well. It's gonna be tough. It's not gonna be easy. But if any team can do it, it is this year's Blue Jays, because they seem like just a unit and a very cohesive unit, which is weird to say for a baseball team, but for a baseball team to be good, 1 through 9 have to be good, and it seems like this is the year it's happening. So we'll take a look at the preview for tonight's game before we head over and look at Twitter. So, of course, if you don't already know, from, all the talking so far, we're facing the Cubbies again. Crazy. We beat them yesterday to improve our record to 70-50 and made their record 67-51. And that is correct. So tonight we'll see what happens. Looked as the favorites with Kevin Gausman pitching, which, of course, we're going to be looked at as the favorites. It's our best pitcher. The Cubbies, of course, have Cade Horton pitching, and of course, all their best players still active. Pete Crow Armstrong, who's been on a massive slump lately across his last some odd games. We'll stay non-specific. He's been batting .030. It's been just anemic for a guy that was up there in the NL MVP discussions. But he's still a guy you gotta look out for. Kyle Tucker, another guy that slowed down after his monstrous start to the season, still a guy you gotta look out for. And then Sayaka Suzuki, Dansby Swanson. I mean, this is a good Cubs team. The fact that we handled them so easily yesterday makes me so excited to watch tonight's game and hopefully stay awake for it. If you didn't join the stream earlier, I might have fallen asleep at Blue Jays game yesterday, so I just gotta put that out there. The important thing here is if we win tonight, we take the series against the Cubs 2-3. I would love to take all three because what's more important than each of these individual series at this point in the season is staying up on the Yankees and Red Sox. Keeping that number one seed in the American League East and guaranteeing that playoff appearance is so crucial. Just being a Blue Jays fan, I can't remember what season it was. Maybe it was 2021, but being the team to win the most amount of games and miss the playoffs, it scarred me. Potentially for life. I might hold on to that forever. So it's just really cemented the importance of getting first, especially in a division that has teams like the Yankees, who are so historically good and spend so much money, and of course teams like the Red Sox, who of course are just always hanging around. So with that, we'll go check out some Twitter because I'm very excited for it. We got some fun stuff to look at. I've saved some fun stuff for us to go over. So for Blue Jays Swear Time, the first post I have, which of course makes me laugh, we'll scroll up to Rocket, who tweets this maybe the baldest and beefiest picture in the history of Rangers baseball. And I would argue just in the history of baseball entirely. Of course, former Blue Jay Rowdy Tellez on the right and then Jake Berger on the left. I mean, it doesn't get better than this. That picture almost brings a tear to my eye. It's so... There's something romantic about it. How could you not be? How could you not be romantic about baseball? But getting on to our regular Blue Jays content, scrolling up here, Pedro Martinez, the legendary pitcher, one of the greatest pitchers of all time for the Dodgers and the Red Sox and Mets, tweets, Blue Jays, the consistency they've shown all year, especially when playing strong teams, tells me the Toronto Blue Jays are for real. I like it. I like it, Pedro. I mean, when you get guys that are that good giving you rave reviews, I mean, one of the legends of the game, it means something. At least to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm a dumb fan for that. But what I'm not a dumb fan for is feeling emotional about this. Buck Martinez being welcomed back. It's a special moment, being given a standing ovation by the Toronto fans and of course the Toronto players. Really special for one of the legends of the game. So welcome back, Buck. Now for the fun stuff. 70 wins. The graphic is up, and who is that front and center on the graphic? It's Ernie Clement, 2-2, because the team believes in him, and you should too. All I'm saying. First American League team to 70 wins is what I should say as well. Of course, looking here at teams with 70 plus wins so far this season, just the Blue Jays and the Brewers. Something about those B teams, they're just hot. They are just hot right now at the right time, just so long as this continues. Good for the Brewers too. Brewers doing this without Jackson Trino, I couldn't tell you. I'm pretty certain he won NL Rookie of the Year last year, and if he didn't, it was a robbery because this guy is so talented. And he's been out, so to stay hot without him, good for them. Scrolling up here, of course, one of my favorite Blue Jay posts of the last little bit, Vladdy making the stretch as we'll look at the play right here. One of Bo Bichette's greatest throws, ranging over, long throw across the diamond, and just guns him down to get us out of the fourth inning. I watched that live, and I was in awe, and then the commercial break happened, and that's exactly when I fell asleep. So I'm proud to say I saw this happen. I was in awe of the stretch that Vladdy did, and that throw from Bo. Amazing work here, and I'm sure that Brios bought each of them a beer after the game because it deserved for that. That is just preventing base runners at its finest. That's why Vladdy won a Gold's Glove in the past, which is crazy to look back on now, but a phenomenal play. And then here we go. Our new pitcher, Louis Varland, who, again, my dad quite likes, texted me mid-game saying that he likes him. He throws heat, and he does. I mean, watching these highlights, making batters look silly. Swanson turfing his bat down just because he can't handle it. This is a guy that is going to help us win and win when it matters most. So we love the pickup. Let's hope he continues pitching hot and pitching well. And then, of course, I gave special mention to this yesterday, but Trey Savage, our number one prospect. This is going to be tomorrow, 6:35 p.m., of course, because today is Wednesday, August 13th. Oh, I cannot wait. I really hope it works out. I really hope it's not another Nathan, Pearman situation, because that would be heartbreaking. I would be devastated if it went the same exact way. And then, of course, shout out to my dad in the chat there. Looking forward to Beaver Start Friday. So we're going to be watching back-to-back Buffalo games, which is, something I've never done before, if we're being honest with each other. Continue on here. We have our Ernie Clement special, because I gave him special mention lately, but I feel like we need extra special mention. So Sportsnet stats: Ernie Clement in his last 19 games, slugging a .600. His OPS is very close to a 1 dot, a .939, with 5 home runs, 13 RBIs, and 18 runs. This is the definition of a heater. This is the definition of being hot, and we love it. We support this. Ernie Clement has been my favorite player on the Blue Jays since I went to a game live back in, I think it was either April or May. It was when they faced the Boston Red Sox and went down 6-0 and won 7-6. It was when I learned that Ernie Clement's walk-up song is the song Zombie by the Cranberries, which, of course, if you haven't noticed and caught on by now, I will sing anytime. The first time I mention his name, because it is perfect. And there's nothing better than that. And ever since then, he's had my heart. And then on the stat sheet, he's had my eyes. And then on the field, on the stat sheet, he's had my brain. And then on the field, he's had my eyes. He passes the eye test. His stats pass the analytics test. And he passes the vibe check. So it's Ernie Clement. Looking at his home run from yesterday. Bang. Deep left field. Right into the bullpen. I wish I was sitting back there, because I would have jumped in the bullpen to get that ball. I would have been all over that. The Ernie Clement home run blast. And, of course, this turned out to be the game-winning blast. For 2 games in a row, the Blue Jays have won off an Ernie Clement home run. Of course, another view of it, because Sportsnet Stats tweeted out that 4 of his 9 home runs so far this season have come on the first pitch, which seems kind of special to me if you think about it. That's not normal. This feels like, I really wish I had this stat ready, and I don't know if it's a stat that's available even, but that seems like something that Ricky Henderson would do. Now, he's not a home run hitter, of course, but he's, of course, had times when he's hot. Ricky, of course, one of the best leadoff bats the best leadoff bat in the history of baseball. Of course, a Blue Jay once upon a time. He probably did stuff like this a lot, and it probably was really fun to watch. And I wish I was around for it. And if this even is like 10% of what that was like, then hey, I'll take it. And that is all for our Blue Jay Twitter time. So really enjoyable so far. I'm really digging this team. I'm really digging the bullpen, especially with the new pickups that we've acquired, and then Ty France, who's coming in, and those are just the guys that you need around if you want to be successful long term. At least long term, meaning through the course of a season. So, we'll see what happens with the team the rest of the way. We just gotta pray. Just sit and hope and pray that it goes well, and it goes right, and that we don't lose in the playoffs like we usually do. Because that's really my biggest fear, because it's not even a roster thing. I mean, the roster, of course, I can poke holes in it all day if I really wanted to, but I like it at the end of the day. It's more so just the city they play in. It's Toronto sports, and that's the curse of being a Toronto sports fan, is that I am sure that something is going to go wrong in the playoffs, and I can almost bet on it. And it's something my brother... he'll talk about all the time, is just you bet the house on a Toronto team losing in the playoffs, and you can feel pretty confident in that, and it makes me mad. It makes me seethe with rage. Ignore the smile because I'm angry on the inside, thinking my brain, the Rolodex in my brain is going through all the playoff losses of not just the Blue Jays, but the Leafs and the Raptors. Thank God for 2019. Either way, Blue Jays this year, maybe the most optimistic I've been about a Toronto sports team. Although I have let myself buy into the Leafs hype. So, that's my fault. But yeah, so Blue Jays, I love it. I think they look good. If you aren't already, tune into tonight's game. And if you aren't tuning into tonight's game, then there's other stuff on the TV to watch, but we'll get into that later. For now, I do want to talk about the Panthers real quick. I know, we talked about them yesterday for a very long time, but something came out. I at least saw this morning. It was posted at 9 p.m. yesterday. I'm going to pull it up real quick, but it is so exciting, and I'm really excited to go over it together. It is a little bit of Panthers Twitter time because they have released the unofficial depth chart. So we're going to look at that together here right now. Of course, I want to thank one of my favorite Twitter follows on this entire website, Edgar Salmingo, for posting it. I'm not sure where he found it, but he found it. So, going through the offense first and foremost here. A little too in. There we go. I'll give you a second. Take it in. This is what greatness looks like. All right, I'll relax on that. But it is it's really exciting. It's really, really exciting. Of course, the underline means rookie, if you can't figure that out. Looking at the room, Tedero McMillan being our wide receiver 1. I'll go through it. The starters are Tedero McMillan as wide receiver 1, Adam Thielen as the starting slot receiver, and then Xavier Legette as the starting wide receiver 2. Behind Tedero McMillan at wide receiver 1 is David Moore, so he's who will slot in if anything were to happen. For the backup slot receiver, it is Hunter Renfrow, who is very comparable to Adam Thielen, almost 1-to-1. That white, smart, athletic wide receiver, who gets open seemingly at will and with just crisp route running. And the key word, sneaky athleticism. They're crafty. Which is just to say they're white. And so, yeah, they're both in that slot position. And then behind Xavier Legette, breathing down his neck, is Jalen Coker, who this is our second unofficial depth chart that's come out. And it's unchanged from the first one. And between this one and the first one, Coker has been tearing up camp and had a touchdown and some very impressive grabs in preseason. So, it'll most likely change. And there's a very good chance that Coker could take over Xavier Legette on the depth chart. But going into our second game, this is going to be, I think, Saturday at 1 p.m. For the Panthers, which I can tell you right now is against the Texans. It's still going to be Xavier Legette over Jalen Coker, which I think Panthers fans aren't ready for. I think they're ready for Jalen Coker to be the wide receiver 2. Some of them, if you ask on Twitter, wide receiver 1, which is wild to me. But they exist, those people out there. But this is what it's going to look like going into this game against the Texans. The tight end room is, of course, Jatavion Sanders, back up with Mitchell Evans. Of course, I'm not going to be trading Henderson for nothing. But that is a solid consideration for sure. And we can have a little dynasty discussion later because there are some interesting things floating around there. But I'm bad, is the short of it. I have a bad team, but there's promise. There's a future here. Of course, owner of Henderson, but either way. And then Jimmy Horn is the third guy on the backup list for the wide receiver 3, which a lot of people have had doubts about, but of course this is unchanged from the first session of camp. So, of course, his position is going to be unchanged. The thing that people get upset about is the fact that Jimmy Horn Jr. is behind David Moore, because no one really likes David Moore. That's the biggest problem. If you ask Panthers fans online, is that David Moore is garbage and shouldn't be on the team, and is Canales' pet project and his favorite player, and you'll hear endless things. But when it mattered most, he made grabs. There was a couple drops last season that were painful to look back at, but, he's a guy that's there. Looking at the O-line, it's remained unchanged, and the biggest thing that I want to look at is not the starters. I have confidence in all of them, but it's the backups. Brady Christensen and Cade Mays. Both of those guys are starters on other teams, and they're backups on our team. So if you're watching Panthers games, expect a little platoon system here where they will come into games and they'll be fine. And then, of course, Bryce Young, QB1, as we come to expect. And then Chuba Hubbard, Rico Dowdle, Trevor Etienne. That's normal. So offense, it's something to be very excited about. Something to be a little worried about is the defense. Which, yeah, it looks bad still. I'll be honest about that. It looks bad. But improved, and that's the key word. It's improving drastically. Ashawn Robinson, Turk Wharton, Derek Brown as the starters on the D-line, and it has Turk Wharton as the starting nose tackle, which is surprising because of how good Bobby Brown played. And then I'm not sure, I didn't clip it, so we won't have Panthers swear time for this, but Cam Jackson, number 55 on the defense there. Also a nose tackle, phenomenal against the Browns, was bullying guys. So we like him a lot. We expect him to jump up on the depth chart real soon, whenever they do decide to make changes to it. Because again, this is an unchanged chart. But going through the list, we still have Shai Tuttle as the backup to Turk Wharton there, which I'm fine with. Derek Brown is listed on the depth chart, which makes me so happy as a Panthers fan. The outside linebackers, both the starting ones, are DJ Wonnum, who played great in that preseason game, so I'm not against that. And then Pat Jones the second, with Princely and Nick Scorin as the backups. I'm okay with this. It's not the worst. Everything that I've just read off there, huge improvement from last season. It's an NFL caliber defensive line, which is something you can't say last year. Last year, a lot of our guys on the D-line, still are on this list, but could be UFL starters and fit in there. So we shift our attention to the linebackers. Just talking about UFL and XFL starters. Christian Roseboom, I'm sorry. I need to see more. I want to see more. You are the biggest underdog coming into the season in my eyes, and the fact that you are given a chance to start is crazy to me. But we'll see, and I really hope you make me eat my words, because we'll see. But Trevin Wallace, I really like. He's going to, I think, improve massively. Our third-round pick last year, who was forced to start every single game as a third-round pick, which is not something that you usually do. And then the backups, not worth mentioning. There's not one worth mentioning, honestly. I'm sorry, but we really do need to sign someone soon, really soon. And then we shift our attention to the defensive backs, who I'm quite fond of so far. This is unchanged, but if you ask Panthers fans on Twitter, and if you ask myself, Corey Thornton here, number 31, he's going to either be a starter or he's going to be the second string backup to Mike Jackson. He might take a Caleb Evans job here because he's been that good. He's been all over the place. Every report on the defense I've read, or working 7-on-7s, like Bryce Young working 7-on-7s, it's Thornton tackle, Thornton pass breakup, which he is all over the place. He's getting work, and Bryce is testing him, or Dalton, whoever's in at quarterback, they're testing him, and he's passing the test. So he might step up here huge. Look for that if you're going to be watching Panthers games. And look for an improvement in our defensive back situation. Of course, we still have Evero as the defensive coordinator, and that worries me till the end of time because his schemes. Last year, we played the Bengals and didn't put J.C. Horn, a top 5 cornerback in the league, on Jamar Chase. So We'll see. We'll see going into this year, but of course, J.C. Horn, Chow Smith Wade as his backup. I quite like that rotation. And then Mike Jackson with Thornton behind him instead of Akilab Evans, I like quite more. And then Trevor Morig with Damani Richardson backing him up now is a change that I didn't see coming. And then Nick Scott and Latham Ransom. I think either one of those two guys could be the starter day one. Looking at this compared to last year, huge, huge improvement. Like you wouldn't believe. And then yesterday I talked about being worried about the special teams, and looking at it again, you'll see why I was worried. It's because our kick returner and punt returner is Raheem Blackshear, who's been around forever as a specialist. Long snapper, of course, J.J. Jansen, who's been around forever. And then the punter, Sam Martin, who we'll see. Hopefully he's good. And then the kicker, Matthew Wright or Ryan Fitzgerald, who I don't think either are worthy of being a number one kicker on a playoff team. And if we want to be a playoff team, this stuff matters. If we want to win big games, kicks matter. We lost so many games last year because guys like Pinheiro would miss kicks. So this matters. I do like seeing Hunter Renfrow and Rico Dowdle listed on the return side of the ball. Of course, this is old, so it won't have any Jimmy Horn. But at the end here, it does have Trevor Etienne, so he is not left out. So, Panthers, I do like the depth chart. It gives optimism. There's no reason why people shouldn't be excited for it moving forward. Of course, we don't have too much to go over for our Toronto Raptors as it's still the offseason. If I was to mention something about them, it would be their summer league performance, which was really good. They won a lot of games. I'm not sure what they finished. I think it might have been second. We didn't win summer league, but an excellent performance nonetheless. I remember they went on a huge win streak, which is not surprising because a lot of the guys that were playing in summer league for us were guys that were getting NBA reps last year. So the competition level for them in May, well, I guess we weren't playing in May, in April went from NBA players to July being the summer league. So I feel like the game probably got a lot easier for a lot of them. Hopefully, when the regular season picks up, they improve and, learn from it. Again, if you're a Raptor fan and you're a little lost because we're going through a transitional phase, I don't blame you and I wouldn't feel bad. But guys to look out for this season, of course, Emmanuel Quickly, RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, Jakob Poeltl. That's the starting five. And that's a solid starting five. And then off the bench, you're going to get guys like Grady Dick, Jacoby Walter, Jamal Sheed, Mogbo, who is hopefully going to be a very solid backup center. It's all things that give me optimism. There's all players that make me be like, yeah, they could grow into a good role. We still have Agjabi. I think that's how you say it. And some other guys just kicking around on the bench. And it's a team that I, again, said it yesterday, I'll say it again. Low tier playoff team. So, that's all for our Raptors. Again, Leafs. I want to give these boys their dedicated day. Because if knowing me, these two players on the screen would probably always be either like Austin Matthews and Zach Hyman once upon a time, or Nylander like I have it now. It never would have been Mitch Marner, but now it'll never be Mitch Marner. Of course, this is gonna get a very dedicated day, and I'm gonna do research, and I'm basically just gonna remake the Steve Dangle video, but it's gonna be more personal, talking about my time being a Leaf fan and supporting Mitch Marner and Matthews and Nylander through all the playoff woes. That'll be one of these days, but it's going to be a heavy day on the heart. I'm not ready for that quite yet. So until then, well, I could talk about them a little bit more. Because I'm someone who has always asked for change with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Me and my dad both. We talk about this all the time, but we need to see change. And we talked about Mitch Marner trades last offseason. and 2 off seasons ago and 3 off seasons ago. And the trade packages that we discussed were a lot better returns than what ended up happening, because it wasn't a sign-in trade. It was a proper trade for a 1 year or 2 year rental. But at least we got something. But still, it's change, and I think it's good change, regardless of getting a worse player out of the deal. I think it's going to change the fabric of the team, and the change that they have made, bringing in guys like Dakota Joshua, who I forgot to mention yesterday, are good changes. It changes the dynamic of this team, and the things that they didn't change were the goaltending and the defense, and I think that was for the best. Now, for what I'm most excited to talk about in a new segment, as we're pulling it up on our phone first to get ready for it. It is time to talk about wrestling, because I love wrestling. Does that make me dumb or stupid? Maybe. I'm okay with that. Because I enjoy it. I enjoy it a whole lot more than watching normal TV shows. I enjoy it just as much as I enjoy watching the Toronto Blue Jays and the Toronto Maple Leafs, maybe even more sometimes, especially when you see it live. Little personal story time. I was in Texas for the biggest show I'll ever go to in my entire life. It was in Globe Life Field, and it had probably about 25 to 30K people all live watching. It was called AEW All in Texas. And my goal here, and my goal with this whole thing, if you are listening, thank you, is just to talk for an hour and have a show that I do daily. And hopefully one day I get to work for a radio station and do this exact same thing. Of course, a future radio station will ask me to be more focused, because I'm very rambly and I like to pull up random stuff. And that's fine. They'll give me proper segments, hopefully, and maybe one day I make my own segments to make this a little more cohesive. But until then, the point of this is to talk about whatever I want to talk about in the world of sports. And a big thing that I want to talk about is something that hasn't gotten it's gotten a lot of attention lately, but it's still not given the respect that I think it deserves, which is AEW, All Elite Wrestling. If you go up to anyone in the entire world and say, hey, do you know WWE? They'll say, yeah, wrestling, right? And you say, yeah. It doesn't matter if you know anything more than that, just as long as you know it. And then I always say to them after, well, this is the exact same thing, but better. And it's called AEW. And that's going to piss a lot of people off that I said that. And I don't care, because I will stand by that forever and ever. For as long as AEW is around, which, if you look at stuff like TNA, which is total nonstop impact, or action, excuse me, Impact Wrestling is what they used to be called. They've been around for like 25 years, and no one thought they would be. So AEW probably has a very good chance to be around for as long as I'm alive. At least that's the hope, As long as the Collins are good at business. The point I'm trying to make is that AEW doesn't get enough mainstream attention. And I'm not saying I'm mainstream, but the things that I'm talking about are mainstream things. I'm talking about the NFL and the Carolina Panthers. I'm talking about the NBA and the Toronto Raptors. I'm talking about the MLB and the Toronto Maple Leafs. And of course the NHL and the Toronto Maple Leafs. And the Toronto Blue Jays. Blue Jays for the MLB. Oh my goodness. I knew I was going to get mixed up in there somewhere. Horrible for that. But those things are all mainstream. And especially here in Canada, those things, other than the Panthers, are the biggest entities. Those are the most mainstream teams. The Raptors, the Blue Jays, and the Maple Leafs. Those are the things that get talked about the most. In the NBA and the MLB, they have to get talked about the most in Canada because they're the only option. So, there's that advantage. But still, the point stands, it's mainstream. Which is basically WWE. It's mainstream. The point I'm trying to make, again, to say that a second time, is that I want AEW to eventually ascend into that mainstream one day. I want it to be seen as a thing that you could say, hey, did you watch AEW on Wednesday night? And someone would know what you're talking about. You wouldn't be looked at like an alien with two heads, which I have been sometimes when I talk to people. And embarrassingly enough, I will bring it up in public. It's just kind of the guy I am. I'll bring it up to my friends. I'll bring it up to strangers I meet at work because I gotta be social. It's just who I am. And I'll bring it up. I'll be like, hey, did you watch AEW on Wednesday? Are you watching AEW tonight? Any of you in the chat, are you watching AEW tonight? A lot of people will then say, what are you talking about? And I will say, you are missing out on so much. And it disappoints me. So tonight, if you want to watch AEW, what you will be watching is Hangman Adam Page going face-to-face with MJF. And if what I said was gibberish, Hangman Page is this guy right here. He is the world champion of the company, and he is awesome. To get the gist of him, if you just search Hangman Page, you'll find a lot of really good stuff, but he is a good guy. We like him. Over here, that's Darby Allin, a good guy. He recently climbed Mount Everest. He has dreams of going to space. He's also wrestling again, and we also like him. Good guy. We won't see him tonight. Potentially. Maybe we do. Maybe it'll be a surprise. So, Hangman Page here is facing off with MJF, and MJF is a smug prick who is a big dick, and if you watch tonight, you'll notice that, and that's basically the only preview I'll give. If you want to watch, please do. We'll be watching Jon Moxley, the former champ that Hangman Adam Page beat, face off against Kevin Knight, an uber athletic, just talented freak of nature. He's awesome, and it's going to be a really fun match. Jon Moxley, again, if you watch WWE, if you know WWE from the 2010s, you might know the name Dean Ambrose. That is Jon Moxley. But Jon Moxley is Dean Ambrose, but better in every single way. And so he's going to be wrestling tonight. And he's been wrestling very frequently for a guy that just held the world title for 9 straight months and just lost it in a Texas death match about a month ago. So we have to respect him as much as we have to hate him, which is a lot. And we'll be cheering for Kevin Knight big tonight. And the only other thing that we really know about the show tonight, because Tony Khan and AEW like being, hush-hush and not announcing things on the card, which is heavily disappointing, is the Rated R Superstar, formerly known as Edge, Adam Copeland, facing off against Big Stoke, who, just based on the name, you would think, oh, Big Stoke, he's going to be facing off against this monster tonight, this big threat. Don't get carried away, because Big Stoke is a manager, and he's shorter than I am, and I'm 6 feet tall, so maybe a better comparison would be he's around my dad's height, or my brother's height, who are the same height, which is around 5'7". So it's going to be this wrestler versus this manager who is very short, who on, I think it was last week's episode of Dynamite, or it was on Collision, said, and I quote, all my life I've been short, I'm bald, I don't get hoes, so of course I've been fighting my whole life. And it's that kind of spirit where it's like, maybe Adam Copeland will let him hit him one time before he, absolutely murders him. But regardless, it's going to be very fun. I'm predicting a run-in, because of course I think FTR has to get involved, regardless of contracts and if they're allowed to touch Adam Copeland or not. And that's, been the big stipulation going on, is that he's wrestling Stoke because he's allowed to, and he's not allowed to wrestle FTR. So, I think they'll get involved. And potentially Christian helps out, but I doubt we'll get that so early on in our storyline. I think they're really going to be building that towards AEW All Out, which is going to be, of course, on September 20th, which I can't wait about. And neither can WWE. I talked about them earlier, but we're got to talk about them again, because, previously in the past, previously, WWE has liked to pretend that AEW doesn't exist. That's been their big thing. Or treat them as this, and I quote, pissant company. Which is fine. Whatever. Treat us like you don't understand. We'll just exist in our own realm. The fans, they yell at each other all the time. But people who truly just love AEW and don't care for WWE or don't like WWE tend just to exist in their own bubble. The people you see on Twitter, these tribalists who get thousands of likes and whatnot, that's not the average person. The average person just watches one or the other or watches both and enjoys what they enjoy and don't talk about it much. It's people like me, it's people like my dad, it's people like my brother, regular people. And I don't want to lose that just because I'm doing some daily show, but I do want to say that I think WWE are a bunch of cowards because they are now treating AEW as competition. And I've seen some people, a lot of people, get angry about this, which it makes me laugh. In short, WWE is scheduling a pay-per-view or a premium live event to go on the same day as an AEW show, or it's either on the same day or on the same weekend. Regardless, they're competing directly for money, for ticket sales, for eyes, for attention, and this has happened before. During AEW All In, where I was at, and I'm also going to be at All Out, so what's up? Shout out to my dad. It's this competition that we won before. AEW has won before. They took all the attention away from WWE on All In weekend and got all the good PR, and everyone really high on AEW. And WWE recently brought back Brock Lesnar, which is loaded. There's a lot going on there. But the short of it is, it's awful and it's horrible that they would promote this and promote this person. And if you want to look more into it, just search Brock Lesnar lawsuit and research yourself, because I don't want to say anything that's wrong. And I don't want to say anything that's incorrect, other than that I am personally disgusted. And of course, AEW is not perfect. They don't have a perfect roster of saints. But they're a lot better in comparison. A lot better. And I'm not trying to prop AEW up by saying anything about WWE, other than the fact that head to head, they're going to have shows. And it seems like WWE is going to use John Cena versus Brock Lesnar as their ticket seller, as their main event. And that doesn't sit right with me. And I feel horrible for John Cena, who's on this big retirement tour, who deserves the best of the best, and not Logan Paul and Brock Lesnar. I just think it's a shame that this is what they're giving him. I'm not a John Cena fan. I never really was growing up. I was a Jeff Hardy fan, always. I never cared about John Cena. I liked his theme song because I like rap theme songs in wrestling. And that's about the short and the end of it. But I just feel like he's being disrespected by the company and by what he's given. And so to relate that to AEW is going to have All Out either on the same day or on a similar day. I'm going to sneeze. Unavoidable. But AEW is going to have All Out on either the same day or the same weekend. And regardless, this is the step into the mainstream that I've always craved. And that I crave by doing this, talking about them on the Sports Hour. Because that's what they deserve. That's how good the television show is. That's how good the wrestling is. And it deserves, in my opinion, more attention because I think it's better. But that's just me. And I don't watch WWE enough to really have that opinion, to be spouting it online. But why not? We live in the age of the hot take, and we live in the day of the uninformed. So why not? I'll spout that take. If you go off the numbers, AEW on cable has around 700K, especially after Brock Lesnar came back. It jumped up from around 500,500 to 600,000 to 700,000, which is huge. That's awesome. And they're on HBO Max. HBO Max doesn't have the numbers public, but they are in 50 million plus homes in America. There's cable in 60 plus million homes. If they have similar numbers to cable, or slightly less, say 400,000, 500,000, it's over 1 million people watching the show every single week. If that isn't mainstream, I don't know what mainstream is. So, you know, if it takes more and more people in their bedroom talking about AEW for it to get more respect, then more and more people should join me in talking in their bedroom about AEW. And maybe that's also the case for the Carolina Panthers. Who's to say? Maybe the Panthers get more respect because more people talk about them and we get them into the mainstream. Who knows? What I do know is that AEW is so fantastic and so worth the time. It's worth the investment to get into. And tonight, it's going to be a good show. If you want my predictions, I think the face-to-face between Hangman and MJF ends with... I don't think they come to blows. I don't think there's a brawl. But I also don't know if... I gotta think the Hurt Syndicate gets involved somehow. But I don't know if that happens. I see a world where it doesn't. And I just see a world where they talk. And it's a promo segment. And that's that. Because MJF has had that before. Especially with guys like CM Punk. Where they had terrific promo segments that didn't require, fighting. Either way, I could see that. Jon Moxley, I think he's going to get the win over Kevin Knight. Unfortunately so, because I love Kevin Knight. But Jon Moxley has to be protected after his loss. And then the third thing on the agenda for tonight, which was, of course, Adam Copeland versus Stoke. I think Stoke's going to win by shenanigans. And it's going to further that storyline. Maybe we get Christian involved. I, again, doubt we do, because we still have a long time to build to our September 20 pay-per-view. But it's a lot to be excited about. I wish they would announce more stuff about the women, because that's really disappointing that they're not being given more time, because I think they are as hot as they've ever been from a television and storytelling perspective. I think they've been just amazing. I think I would love to see more stuff with someone like Megan Bayne, at least get on the show. Willow, she's always available and she's always amazing. Of course, Sky Blue and Julia Hart. I mean, these are people that get involved a lot on Collision. Collision has had such an amazing run with the women's division that I think Dynamite has to step up and do, because I feel like people who watch only Dynamite miss out so much on the amazing women's division that AEW has to offer. I think, other than Japan, the best women's division. It's the best women's division in North America. I could confidently say that. I can't confidently say that because I don't watch WWE, but I would put them up against them easily. And I'd love to see more. I'd love to see more announced. I'd love to know what Toni Storm's up to. I'd love to see her and Athena have more segments on TV. I would love to see Mercedes Moné, 8-Belt Moné on TV, promos, matches, anything really. I would love to see... we're getting late into our hour, but just some Hail Mary thoughts to throw out here at the end. Tag titles for the women. And while we're at it, let's give them trios titles. Because it's not like we see the women regularly anyways. So when we do see them, let's make it special. Let's make them have belts. Let's make them champions. And let's make contendership matter more. We just saw the Julia Hart, Sky Blue, add Tekla to their Spooky Lady ring. Why can't we have trios women's matches more often? 6-on-6. And get more of them on the card. They're great. They really are great. And if there was more tag matches, they'd be given more chances to really show off and, be better. So we'll see. We'll see with our AEW women, but the men's, they're cooking right now. It is a good time to be an AEW fan. And, good time to be a sports fan in general. So with that, we have 1 minute left in our sports hour. So I will say thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining me. We will be back tomorrow. One of these days, either this week or next week, hopefully this week, we'll talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs and Mitch Marner and what he means to Leaf fans and what he means to the Vegas Golden Knights, because that's also a very important part of this. But that day is not today. That's going to be a big one. So prepare yourself for that. I will warn you when it comes. But regardless, thank you for tuning in. This has been Curtis Collings Presents The Sports Hour. And hopefully I will be seeing you tomorrow. If not, come back some other time.